Hello and welcome to episode number 18 of the Hobbies and Happiness podcast, where we talk all about the hobby that makes us happy, tabletop gaming. I'm one of your hosts, Dan.
And I'm Jim. And today we're talking about license versus original IP in tabletop gaming. Let's get into it.
You're getting there, Jim. You are getting there.
I'm trying.
It's like a perfect example of
Yours gets to stay the same every time. Mine changes. Very
it's like fake it till you make it. All right. So today in the podcast, we're talking about it kind of it is an interesting topic. Original IPs and licensed IPs. Okay, so I want to talk about this right off of the get-go right away here. The catalyst for us for this episode is recently, and of course my iPad doesn't want to work with me right now. Of course not.
Wizards of the Coast.
Yes.
Have come out with some stuff.
Yeah. So in February, and I believe it was late February. Okay, there was an article by Wizards of the Coast titled Magic's Voyages to Universes Beyond. And I think before this announcement, this article, I think there was rumblings a little bit because there was an investor call. It was either around the same time or shortly before this where they kind of made an announcement to where they were bringing in Lord of the Rings and Warhammer 40K into the Magic universe. Yeah. Okay. And the responses to that were all over the place.
Yeah.
They were all over the place. And
I didn't know how I felt about it, honestly. It was strange.
See, so let me just read. I'm going to read a couple of paragraphs here just so you can kind of get the feel for it. And all this will be linked as well. Okay, so the article starts by saying, earlier today, we revealed an exciting expansion of Magic the Gathering into the realms of Universes Beyond, a series that combines the gameplay of Magic the Gathering with worlds, characters, and stories that are cherished by millions of fans around the world. Among those worlds are the expansive universes of Warhammer 40,000 and Lord of the Rings, with others set to join as our Universes Beyond expands. This expansion of the Magic game system to other universes is exciting and new, and certainly raises questions for many of our long-standing fans. So today, we're going to answer many of those questions as we look toward the Universes Beyond release in 2022 and further. So if you want to read the rest of that article, like I said, it'll be linked in the descriptions, so you can check that out. But if you're not really in the Magic world, then you probably didn't hear about this. However, there was actually an article about it in Forbes, which was actually interesting.
Wow.
Yeah. So Forbes was talking about it.
That's
now, I'm actually interested to know, like, if Forbes happened upon it or one of two other things happened. Wizards of the Coast or Hasbro contacted Forbes and said, hey, we're having an investors call, you should listen in. Or if they just decided, hey, there's an investors call, let's listen in and see what Hasbro is going to be talking about. So I'd be interested to know that just because it's an interesting thing, I think.
Yeah.
So where I think the biggest, I'm just going to say backlash because I can't think of any other really word to describe it at the moment. Came from the Magic community was longtime fans of Magic. Okay. Yeah. So it brought up an interesting conversation, right? Because Magic has been around for 20 some odd years, 30,
28.
Yeah. Almost 30 years.
I'm a month older than Magic.
Yeah. I forgot that. Yeah. But it brought an interesting conversation here because, Magic's been around for 30 years, right? When Magic started, there was no Magic universe to speak of. Yeah. There was no lore. Now they have a history, a 30 some odd year history of all of this lore that's been created and a massive and giant fan base of those people, right? And so if we just talk about Magic and, okay, so now we have Lord of the Rings and Warhammer 40K, right? Now we just talk about Lord of the Rings. Lord of the Rings has been around for how many more years? Like Lord of the Rings has been around for forever.
I was gonna say it came out what in like 50s or something.
Honestly, I'd have to. I'm not totally sure when Tolkien wrote those books because it's been around for a long time. And Lord of the Rings, I'll tell you, Lord of the Rings is one of my favorite fantasy universes. Period. Period. End of story. I love Lord of the Rings. I'm a big Tolkien fan, and I love Lord of the Rings. So when I saw this, my thinking where I'm at is like, I love Lord of the Rings. I enjoy magic, so this ought to be interesting.
Yeah.
So. Now, if you continue to read this article, they talk about the holofoil stamp at the bottom of the cards that they're gonna be using on these cards. And then if you're familiar with Magic and you know what's been going on, that stamp was also used in a recent highly controversial
was it the Walking
release.
Dead one?
It was the Walking Dead one because they have that triangle stamp at the bottom.
Yeah.
These cards are going to be stamped with that. So it'll kind of give you like another indication of, where the card's from.
Yeah.
Now, since this article, because the big concern, and Jim, I'm sure you know more about this, than I do. But the big concern with Walking Dead was it was legal in just about every format except standard.
Yeah.
Correct?
So it was legal in Legacy, Vintage, and then also Commander, because it was pretty much a Commander set was what they were going on.
Right. Because with the Walking Dead, they were all legendary creatures.
Yeah. And so no. So they weren't silver border.
Right. They were black border.
Yeah,
right.
so that's why silver border cards are not legal in those formats.
Correct.
Since they were black border, they were legal in Legacy and Vintage.
Right.
And that's what caused a lot of people to go crazy over it.
Because those formats are competitive formats.
Yeah.
And they're very competitive formats.
Yeah.
And so that's where people were like, okay, you're releasing these limited edition cards that you could only buy for a week? Or was that might have even been a 24 or 48 hour sale? I can't remember.
Yeah, I don't remember.
But regardless, it was a limited edition sale.
Yeah.
Okay. That was the only way you could buy these products. And so that's where people were legitimate or illegitimately, everyone has their own opinions, right? But I mean, I do think it is still a legitimate concern that. Now, can you still get those cards? Yes, you can, but it's not as easy as let me go straight to, my LGS or Wizards of the Coast and say, hey, I want to buy these cards. Yeah. No, but I mean, you can't. I mean, technically, you can't really do that anyway, unless you just go to the secondary market, which there's always going to be a secondary market.
Which is what most people do to get their Magic cards.
Right.
So.
Right. The singles, you always go secondary market. So that is what that's a reality. That is what it is.
Yep.
Right. And that's why I say legitimately or illegitimately, whatever your opinion is your opinion. That's fine.
Can you imagine if they didn't make Secret Lair limited or like limited time? They were just like, oh yeah, we got these new Secret Lairs, and then like the first ones that came out are still around, and you can just keep buying them from Wizards.
Well, they are still around, but I mean,
strictly from Wizards rather than just going to someone on the secondary market.
Then it would be treated, in my mind, it would be treated just like any other set where they print it for a set amount of time.
Yeah.
It's just with the Secret Lairs, that amount of time is extremely short. Like it would be here versus a normal set, which would be something, like.
Or if they just kept like printing, the dark set or any of the I guess they couldn't really do that because a lot of the cards are on reserved lists, I believe.
Yeah, with those older sets, there's quite a bit of the cards that are on the reserved lists. So you can't really do that with everything. Yeah,
Blood Moon's not on the reserved list. So I know it's from the dark, which I think was like the 4th or 5th set or something. It's 94, 95 Magic era. Yeah. So it's playable in there. It's the first like 8 sets.
Yeah. Yeah. The dark is a sweet set. Yeah. So I mean, there's always going to be a secondary market, right? And that's never going to go away. It's just Basically, I think the question that you're kind of asking is, can we imagine if they printed these secret layers for a longer period of time?
Yeah.
I'd be interested. I'd be interested to know how it would affect Hasbro and how it would affect the secondary market.
Yeah.
It'd be very interesting.
They printed it for like 2 years or something like that, kind of going off of like their standard sets.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I don't think they'd make as much money.
Yeah. Making it
Hasbro
very
would, at
limited
least.
time. Yeah.
I mean, that's making things a limited time is what is like it increases the value, period.
Oh, yeah.
Period.
For sure.
So if you have something that where the value is here, I don't think you want to do anything to, make the value go down here. And honestly, that's what Wizards and Hasbro always has to keep in mind when they're designing new cards, number one, but number two, figuring out which cards to reprint.
Yeah, sure.
And that's why they have the reserve list, and those types of things. So anyway.
Yeah, but they regret having the reserve list though.
Do they though? Does Wizards?
Yes.
Why?
I forget exactly why. But there has actually been an interview, and I'm gonna have to show it to you.
Okay.
We gotta go over it.
Yeah, I will have to see that. I mean, you know, they're never gonna do anything with that because if they did, they would lose they'd go bankrupt.
Yeah, they could easily be sued for it.
Oh, they would 100%. They would.
Yeah, I looked more into it, and it was since it wasn't like a completely written thing. It was more of a verbal agreement as to they would not reprint these things, the reserved list.
I think
it depends on the judge, which judge it is, to use that verbal contract as binding or not.
From my understanding, they actually it's in a contract now. My understanding. Okay. I could be wrong. But that's just been my understanding. Mm-hmm. Again, the whole reserve list and everything is something that I feel like we need to actually look into a little bit more. But it's still an interesting topic, I think. But that's not the topic we're talking about.
No, it's not.
It's not. Okay.
We got sidetracked.
Okay. And that happens all the time. It's crazy. Okay. So, when they're talking about bringing these cards in, it's like, so for me, how I felt about it was I like Lord of the Rings. Like I love Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
There are other Lord of the Rings card games that I also love.
Yeah.
So
just grab one.
I would.
Where is it?
You're not going to grab it.
Okay, I'm not going to grab it.
Yeah, it's like literally right behind you. So I'm kind of okay with it because I love Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
Right. And I know it's a big business decision anyway, is they just want to make more money. So from that standpoint, I understand. But we have heard more information about this because these aren't going to be standard legal sets. These are going to be like they're going to release commander decks for these. So you're going to have a Warhammer one. I think you're going to have Lord of the Rings one too. So they've released a little bit more information about it. So
they got their D&D ones coming out very shortly.
Yeah, and that's part of the main set.
Yeah.
So so this whole product line is going to be called The Universes Beyond, right? So they're going to be expanding into all these other IPs. Right? And so they are separating it off from the main Magic sets, a little bit. So that kind of alleviates some concerns a little bit. So that's good. Okay. But it got me thinking about like when I was younger, there was, nowadays the tabletop industry and space is completely different.
Yeah.
Completely different. There are so many different licensed IPs out there for board games and card games and original IPs, right?
Yeah.
Back in the day, there was, I felt like any board game or tabletop game you saw, if it was a licensed IP, like it was terrible. Like that's just, and I'm frustrated with myself just because I can't remember any specific examples. It's just, that was just a feeling that I kind of remember.
Yeah.
I mean, the tabletop space and industry has grown
Did you
like crazy.
Did you maybe think it was bad because of how much you liked whatever the IP was? So say it was like a Jurassic Park game and you really liked Jurassic Park, right? But it was like, oh, I was expecting so much more because I loved the movie, and it's like, this game let me down.
Yeah, probably when I was younger. When I was younger, was definitely more so the case than it is now.
Yeah.
Like now, I've learned to number one, temper my expectations.
Yeah.
Right, but number two, appreciate different things other than what the IP is.
Yeah.
Okay. So, for example, and so not tabletop, but video game. There was a Jurassic Park game that I played on the Sega Genesis.
Yep.
Dude, I love that game.
That's partially why I brought it up. Like that game was great.
That game was great.
The dinosaur at the start, he's like, Sega.
Yeah, I loved that, dude. That was fantastic.
Yeah.
But as far as tabletop games, like there just weren't very many good games.
Yeah.
That I remember, you know. And so when you saw and again, like I've said this like 10 times already now, but it's the space has changed so much, and designers and publishers they've come a long way.
Things get better.
Well,
Things
right.
get better
And
as
like
time goes
people
on.
have gotten so much more creative, and the space has just gotten so much better. But and so I just remember, you know, looking at the shelves, right, and just seeing the board games that were there, and it's like you rarely ever saw original IPs in tabletop games. Like a lot of the time, the games were all licensed IPs. And again, now granted, me being a lot younger, would I have been able to tell the difference? Probably, because most of the games were all based off of, you know, big name IPs like movies, right? And because most of them were movies.
I was gonna say, I mean, like, because we know Carcassone's been out for a long time.
Yeah, that's
Catan's been out for a long time. So I don't know. It's hard to say because I really don't know the history of a lot of games out there.
And that's why I'm also saying like what I remember when I was younger, number one, and then again, I was not as involved in the space as I am now.
Yeah,
for
I
sure.
didn't really start playing a lot more board games till like 2003 range.
Yeah.
So the other ones were like Monopoly, Uno, and like Pretty Princess. That's about it.
But now it's gotten to the point to where I notice all of these things, right?
Yeah.
And I think it's gotten to the point to where it doesn't matter what the IP is. If the game is good, then it's good.
Yeah.
And I've gotten to the point to where I normally don't really care per se about the IP, because now it's got, and I don't want to say it's gotten to the point, but I've gotten to the point for me where I don't look at the IP. I mean, I do look at the IP that the game is based on, number one. Okay. If it's licensed or original, whatever, it doesn't matter. I look at who designed the game, look at who published the game. I look at what kind of game it is, see what kind of game mechanics. And for me, I feel like the biggest thing is who has been involved in the game.
Yeah.
Who's involved in the game? And
if you know that the designer you like their games, the genre, or the publisher, you know, then you're more likely to like those games, especially if you know that they tend to keep their games all relatively close to each other. You know, like the Unstable Unicorn games.
Yes.
And what's the other one? It's over here somewhere.
Unstable games. Anytime they come out,
Here to Slay.
That's the same. That's the same company. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
I got
like
you.
they tend to keep their games all roughly the same.
Yeah. The Exploding Kittens people.
Yeah.
I cannot remember the publishers or designers of those, but there's a Kickstarter that I just backed for them. And I'm gonna try and look it up now if I can remember. So as I look that up, there was actually one other thing that I was thinking about. So, you know, we talk about we look and see who's involved in these games, okay? And that's normally how we kind of make our determination, right? Of, you know, if we're going to back the game or not.
Yeah.
Or not even necessarily back the game, but just play it in general.
So one of the original people from Magic the Gathering, Richard Garfield.
Yes.
He's a huge game designer.
Oh yeah.
Right. He's come out with a bunch of games.
Yeah.
And there are some games out there that I'll play. I'll be like, oh man, I'm a really big fan of this. And someone will be like, oh, this was made by Richard Garfield. I'm like,
sold.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Exactly.
It makes sense.
Exactly. And it's gotten to the point for Richard Garfield. Well, it's been like this for a long time.
Yeah.
Of he is the main selling point for these games. If you ever see if he's
and most of the time I don't even know he made these games. I'm just like, I love this game.
Oh, yeah. But now it's gotten to the point to where if he's involved in it, like the box and the marketing material is always a Richard Garfield game.
It's either like underneath the name in like fancy writing or cursive or whatever, or it's in the top left corner of the box. And it's always made by Richard Garfield or something.
There was a card game recently that we haven't really got into. We kind of want to, but it's the one where you've got your own. It's a different deck that you buy from Fantasy Flight, and you don't buy singles. It's on a deck thing. Keyforge.
Keyforge. Yeah.
That was one where, again, when it first came out, it was all about Richard Garfield. Garfield. You saw his name.
Yeah. It was the original idea of what they wanted Magic to be. And like, that's really what they promoted it by.
Yeah.
And it's a fun game. Have you played it?
I still haven't yet to play it. No.
Yeah. When I played it, it was really different to me because I really enjoy playing constructed decks to where this is just like out of the box play. You can't make any changes to it.
Yeah.
And that was like the whole idea that they wanted to do. Yeah. So. Yeah. But yeah, that's cool.
So there was a game that I backed recently. It's called Sheep in Disguise.
Sheep in Disguise. Okay.
And it's a card game. Okay. And so I look at the art, and of course you can tell it's from the Exploding Kittens people. Okay. Yeah. And they make awesome games. Okay. So immediately, as soon as I saw it, I saw Sheep in Disguise. Oh, it's the Exploding Kittens people. It's a card game. Let me see a little bit about this card game. Okay. Yeah, I'm sold.
Yeah.
I mean, really?
Yeah.
It's if you do good work now, it's so much more than the IP now. It is so much more than the IP.
We also talk about like video games, right? Like the long lines of video games of like, you may not be the biggest fan of Call of Duty or the whole thing with recycling the old games. It's like, but people are still there going for it. Same thing with like Halo, or we talk about World of Warcraft, Blizzard, and they have a lot of different games that they have. Other FPSs like Overwatch and other MOBAs, Heroes of the Storm, insert these other games, StarCraft, and it's like most
Riot
of the time.
Games.
Oh yeah, same thing with Riot Games. They are now branching from League of Legends. They just came out with Valorant. They're also making an MMO that is based off of League of Legends lore. I'm stoked for that one. And like I've been a huge Blizzard fan for like the last 12 years. Every game
I can't wait for the next Diablo.
Yeah, every single game. Oh yeah, Diablo's a huge one.
Oh, I love that franchise.
Dude. And so like I've been a huge fan of it, and like whenever they come out with a new game, I'm there.
Oh yeah. You
know?
Yeah. It has gotten so. It has got and to your point, like that's the game industry now.
Yeah,
it's the game industry. It's who's involved in these games.
Mm-hmm.
If we know who's involved in these games and they have produced good work before, then you have a track record of essentially producing quality content.
Yeah,
right.
There's actually a new company coming out in the video game industry, Dreamhaven, I believe is what it's called.
Okay.
And it's a lot of game developers from Blizzard that have either left or got fired, and they went over to this one. So a lot of people have big hopes for these guys.
Interesting. So, interesting. There's another company. And I'm trying to see. I think the company is it's Earthborn Games.
Earthborn. Okay.
I actually posted about this game and this company on our Facebook page not that long ago. Okay. They have a Kickstarter starting July 27th, I believe is when the Kickstarter is starting. Okay. And the game is called Earthborn Rangers. Okay. So this studio was founded last year by industry veteran Andrew Navarro.
Okay.
Now Andrew Navarro
That name sounds familiar.
was a big part of the Arkham Horror, the card game.
Oh.
I believe he also was involved in Netrunner, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay.
I could be wrong there.
I was gonna say, have we talked about this guy before?
I think I've mentioned him to you just in passing.
Okay.
But when I saw this, it piqued my interest. Like I tweeted about it.
Yeah.
And I was like, I am hyped for this because I love card games, right?
Yeah.
We both do. We absolutely love card games. So if there's another new good card game from a designer who has made a game like Arkham Horror, I'm already in. Like I am already sold. Like you don't need to tell me more. I'm down. And like the game is cool because Andrew Navarro and his company is really big in sustainability. And that's great, right? He clearly has a value system that he is designing a game around. And like that's awesome. Like again, my opinion doesn't really matter because if someone has a value system and it's something they care about, and then they're going to design their game and a company around that, more power to you.
Yeah.
Me personally, it's just like I like sustainability. I think it's a great idea, but for me, when it comes to games, I'm more about is it a good experience? Is it a good game? If it is, then I'm more likely to get involved. I'm typically, and again, I guess this is probably just this particular subject, but I don't think I would back something based off of this subject just because it's something I'm into. It's more for me, it would be like a game thing. Yeah. But I can respect and totally understand if people choose to back you or give you money, invest in you because they believe in your value system.
Yeah.
I mean, that's awesome. So I'm really stoked for this. So I really cannot wait for I guess there's already been an announcement about when his Kickstarter is going, but when the Kickstarter actually drops, I'm looking forward to that. So yeah, it's really all about, can you make a good game and what's your track record? Now, if it's somebody who's new, like if somebody who's never designed anything before, it's a lot harder for them, right? Number one, they are basically, if they're by themselves, they have to do an original IP. Yeah. Because I mean, they don't have to, but in order to use licensed IPs, it's going to cost you a lot of money. It's going to cost you a lot of money. A lot of money.
So you already need to have your foot in the door, and you need to know some people. So it's a whole lot harder.
Yeah. Yeah. So Jim actually had given us a couple of examples of some IPs that have turned into some games. Okay. So we'll talk about them here. The first is Funko Verse.
Yes.
Now, Funko Verse, geez, I feel like
you guys know what Funko Pops are. This is a Funko game Pops about Funkos.
Yeah. That whole product line of Funkos is insane.
Yes, it is.
And that goes to collectability.
Yes.
100%.
That is a rabbit hole I don't want to go down, because it's like all my animes I like, the games I play, like they have one for every Blizzard game.
I've got a couple actually up there.
Yeah, you know.
Some Batmans, Batman and Robin. I think I have a Batgirl over there too. I also had a Kingdom Hearts one.
Oh man.
Because I love Kingdom Hearts and it's awesome.
Yeah.
But they make Funkos for like everything.
Yeah, there's so much
they
stuff.
have, I don't want to say they've cornered the collectability market, but that's where they lie heavily into that collectability.
Yeah. I mean, when you have a character from any game that you like, any TV show, like animes, cartoons, whatever it is, you kind of corner stuff for yourself. And like they're just these cute little characters, and they have a lot of variety.
They do.
And aside from the normal look of all of them, they have like different colors for them, or it can be like a pure white, like do it yourself, like coloring in them, or it could be a gold one or silver or whatever it is. There's a wide variety of these things.
Yeah.
But the game, you don't get to use the Funko Pop like the normal ones, which is kind of a bad thing. But there would also be so much stuff for them.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's smaller ones.
Are they like smaller pieces? Smaller game pieces?
Well, they are the Funko Pop characters, just a little smaller. They're not normal size.
Right.
And then they all have these different abilities that they have, and you can team them up with either the bad guys or the good guys or mix and match from any of the games.
I gotcha.
You have like Jurassic Park, Harry Potter, Alice in Wonderland, some other anime, I forget what it is. It's like Aggretsuko or something along those lines.
Yeah.
And
Nice. Yeah, I haven't played any of those games. Like I see them all the time. They're like in every big box retail store.
Yeah, I got my girlfriend the Harry Potter ones.
Okay.
So I think that we're only missing like one of them now. And so we have 6 characters.
Now hang on. So with the games, I'm assuming when you buy one of the board games, you don't get all of the Funkos. You have to buy more to collect more.
Yeah. So the base game has 4, and then they came out with an expansion that had 2 more, and then another base game that had 4 characters.
Okay, gotcha.
So and then how it works is they all have these different abilities. You team up 2 characters. So we'll say like Ron and Harry teaming up on a team. Right. And you got to go take down Voldemort and put in some random, Draco Malfoy. And so you're moving your characters around. You have a certain amount of times you can move, a certain amount of things you can do for an attack or on your turn. And you have to either dominate an area, collect the flag, return it to your area, or you can just do a team deathmatch and just kill the other people, and whoever is left standing wins.
Yeah.
So it's a pretty cool game.
So, we've talked about Funko Verse, which I don't even know if that's something I even want to play, to be quite honest with you. But the next one is the Villainous franchise.
Yeah.
So they've got Disney Villainous and they have Marvel Villainous. Okay. And those games we're actually going to be doing quite a bit of content on. I'm looking forward to that. But that's a game, though. Both of those games, Disney and Marvel Villainous, are fantastic. And so back in the day, they probably could have gotten away with those games even if the game was actually terrible. Yeah, you know what I mean? I think the industry has gotten to the point to where you can't just use our intellectual property if you're going to make a terrible game. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, I'm sure, because that just makes them look bad.
Oh yeah. Yeah. It's so the games themselves are phenomenal. And so, we're going to be talking about those games quite a bit. So we'll just basically say they're fantastic for now.
We got to get another 4-man game of Marvel
Villainous. Yes. I'm looking forward to that next expansion, or the first expansion, I guess, actually, for Marvel.
That'll be great.
That'll be fun.
More characters. That'll be great.
Oh yeah. We're looking forward to that. The next 2, I guess, are the comic book deck builders, is what I'll call them. Yeah. You've got DC deck building game and Marvel Legendary. Now, both of those systems are very separate, okay? And both of those systems have also spanned into other IPs.
Yeah.
Okay. So DC deck building game is a game that was published, I think it was published by Cryptozoic Entertainment.
Yep, Cryptozoic.
And it's a fantastic system. I enjoy the system. I think it is really, really good. Yeah. And then the other one is Marvel Legendary, which there's quite a bit of other legendaries. I mean, there's a brand new one, 007.
Yeah. I just learned about that one today.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I've known about it, not for a long time, but I have seen it. They have a Buffy the Vampire Slayer one. They have an Aliens, Legendary Encounters alien. They have a Legendary Predator one, too.
Oh,
there's a Predator.
I didn't see that one. Yeah.
There's Aliens and there's Predator. And then there's also Big Trouble in Little China, which is weird. But you know what? If it's the Legendary system, then it's probably good. My guess, I would guess that a lot of the cards from these different games are just reskins.
That's what I was assuming.
I'd assume
like
so.
Nothing too different, just completely different.
Because what I found out was the app that's on my phone, it's a cartoon universe.
Okay.
And I believe it's like an original, like an original world, original IP thing. But I come to find out one of the heroes is Cyclops from Legendary Marvel. What I mean is the cards. The cards from Legendary Marvel are the same.
Yeah.
They're like, so I saw that and I'm like, oh, okay. All right. And then same thing with a couple of other ones. I'm like, I found out who these cards, not necessarily were based on, but they're just reskins of those same cards.
Yeah.
So
makes sense.
Yeah. So if you've never, and I think I've actually with the Loki show being just recently completed, well, season 1 was, excuse me. I did a post not that long ago with Loki, with the Loki cards from Legendary Marvel because I was, I really wanted to because Loki's awesome.
He is pretty great.
Yes, he is. He's awesome. He's awesome.
His character is phenomenal.
Oh, yeah.
And his actor, I forget his name.
Tom Hiddleston.
That guy.
He's a great actor.
That guy can play Loki really well.
He's a fantastic actor. Fantastic actor for sure. Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, this is, I feel like a topic that's never really going to go away. Mm-hmm. Right. But I think the industry and consumers in the market have gotten to the point now to where we don't look at the IP. Do we care about the IP? Yeah, we do. But to what extent? Like, I don't think the extent we care about it.
Yeah, not too much.
Is not there.
Yeah.
So
I also have been like in it long enough, but if some random person walking down the halls of Target or Walmart or something and they're like, "Oh, that's just like my favorite show," or something like that, it definitely can grab some eyes.
Consumers we've gotten smart. We've gotten smart, and like we know what we want, especially in the tabletop industry, especially like we know what our tastes are, we know what we like, we know what we don't like, and that's pretty much where it's gotten, I think.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's kind of, and I don't think it's going anywhere. I don't think. I mean, consumers aren't going to get dumber. I mean, they might, but I doubt it. Especially tabletop gamers.
Yeah, no. Well, I mean, there's studies out there that show gamers are like 20% higher IQ than normal. For the average person, so
especially strategy gamers too.
Yeah, that's like a completely different mindset.
Oh, it is totally 100%. So, if you've never checked out any of these games, you need to. Except Funko Verse. I mean, I don't know if I'm.
We just like picked it up. I really just picked it up because my girlfriend liked Harry Potter, and she was interested.
That makes sense.
So
that makes
sense. All right, why
not? That makes sense. Yeah, I don't think I'm ever gonna play it, to be honest with you. But I see the intrigue. Like I get it. I see the interest. What's interesting.
It's like a bridge for me from people that are really big into the collectible thing for Funko Pops, and then bridging them into board games with a little game that they can still collect.
And that's the thing. Like, you have to do that. Like with every person you meet, you got to figure out what's that link. Where is that link to where I can just grab onto and then just get you into the table, into this space?
Which is what Wizards of the Coast is doing with their now D&D Adventures in the Forgotten Realm.
Trying to get Magic people into D&D and then D&D people into Magic.
Exactly.
Yeah. It makes sense. Like, I get it. Like, as businesses, like,
you know what I was just thinking about?
No. What?
So they're probably going to make Gollum a goblin. I hope so. Just like a mono red goblin for Magic.
Yeah.
And I hope he's broken. So people can just like, as they're playing, I'll be like, my precious. Just make them so busted where people love playing them.
I wonder if the ring is going to be a token or if it's going to be just an artifact.
Yeah.
It's got to be an artifact.
Gollum ETBs or enters the battlefield, you get the ring. Oh, what if it's a bit like Monarch or something?
Like Monarch.
Or you can phase out. Oh, man, you just phase out to equip it to yourself. Woo!
Yeah, equip it and then phase out. Oh, dude, that'd be sweet. Oh, sorry. We're kind of geeking out.
Yeah, we're just theory crafting.
We're figuring out what we're gonna see. I'll be interested.
Yeah, the Return King Kenrith.
Oh yeah,
make a reskin of that for him.
Yeah, for Aragorn or something.
Yeah, Aragorn.
Yeah, that'd be sweet. I'm interested. I'm really interested.
Yeah.
Will I buy it? I'd probably. Maybe.
Depending on
it depends. Yeah, depends. There's a lot of things, especially with Magic now.
If it's going to be like a secret layer, I'm probly not. But
I don't think it's going to be.
If it's Commander decks, I'll probably pick up one or two, depending on what it is.
Yeah. Just because I love Lord of the Rings, dude. It's gonna be sweet.
Yeah. We're gonna get more dwarves for Boros dwarves.
Yes.
With vehicles and stuff. Oh man.
All right. Okay.
Enough with that, man. What's next?
Enough. All
Back to the list.
All right. Well, that was the list. That pretty much was the list.
Should we talk about Dungeon Mayhem too?
Oh,
That's D&D, right?
That is
That
D&D.
is.
Yeah.
It's a card game based on Dungeons and Dragons,
Yeah.
monsters or characters.
Yeah,
and
it's over there somewhere.
Yeah,
I've
it's
got
right
it.
on
Yeah,
there.
it's right over there. Yeah.
That's why I brought it up. I just looked over it.
Yeah. So, yeah, this is an interesting conversation. I don't feel like we did the topic justice, to be quite honest with you, because it's so broad, and I know like that there has got to be so much more history here.
Yeah.
That we just don't know about.
We're just scraping the top.
Oh, yeah, totally. Because it's just the industry now is just so much more advanced, than it was when we were kids.
Well, we also got Marvel Champions up here somewhere as well.
That's
Marvel
another one.
Champions.
Yeah, but yeah, there's like there honestly
like
there's
Arkham
so
Horror,
many there's so many games now that are licensed IPs that are amazing games. I mean, if we look over here, I mean, Arkham Horror is, I don't know if it's a licensed IP, but it's not an original IP.
What do we say about Unmatched? It's not original, but it's all like fantasy characters coming together to fight each
that's
other.
That's a good one too.
So
Power Rangers.
Oh, yeah, you
can never go wrong with Power
one.
Rangers.
Yeah, they have multiple Power Rangers.
You know why I bought that? I love deck building games, and it's Power Rangers. But I mean, what more do I?
They also have the Battle of the Grid or whatever it's called as well. Heroes of the Grid, which is like more minis based rather than card game. So
there's another Batman. There's a Batman the Animated Series game. It's Gotham City Under Siege. Yeah. It's that dice game. That's another fantastic one.
Oh, Monopoly Gamer with like the Mario stuff.
That was really good.
That is a huge spin on the Monopoly series. If you guys haven't played it, your character actually matters. Whenever you're rolling the dice and you get an ability, they all have different abilities on them.
Yeah.
And if you're playing Mario Kart, then you're just pretty much like throwing the green shells at people, getting off the abilities of your character as well. And it's a completely different game. It's also a lot faster.
Yeah.
Because you only have to kill like the 10 bosses playing the game rather than be the last one standing. So you can have 8 people in a game and it takes like an hour rather than 8 people and it takes a whole week.
Yeah.
So,
So I mean, that's like we said, that this is just totally scratching the surface. Totally scratching the surface. I'd be interested, like, if you guys have any stories, I guess, from when you were younger and now of kind of IPs that you kind of bought because of the IP, like the licensed, like if it was like Lord of the Rings or something along those lines, and you were completely let down, or the other way, like you just bought it and then you weren't really sure and then it turned out to be awesome. Let us know. I would really be interested to know, to know about some of these for you guys. So definitely let us know. Shoot us an email. You can hit us up, hobbiesandhappiness@gmail.com. Yeah, I mean, you can find us on social media. Jim, where can people find you on socials?
Yeah, you guys can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Jim Morgan HNH.
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter at _DG Campbell and over at Instagram at Daniel.G.Campbell. And you can find Hobbies and Happiness. You can find us over on Facebook at Hobbies and Happiness, Instagram, hobbies.n.happiness, I think, Twitter, Hobbies and Happy. All of these are linked in the description, so you'll be able to find
there's a few
all
different
of them everywhere.
ones. So.
Yeah. Trying, like the one with Twitter, it's Hobbies and Happiness is too long, so we had to shorten it a
Cut it down to happy. All right.
So it is what it is. Yeah. I'm interested to know if really there's other games that out there that you guys have that, is either an original or licensed IP, and you were kind of blown away one way or the other.
Have you bought a licensed one that you were just like, I don't want to play this ever again, and you just picked it up because you liked what it was?
I don't think so.
No?
I honestly don't think so.
There was this one I picked up. It was called Salem. It was a social deduction game, and I have yet to play it, but the only reason I picked it up was because of how much I like the Salem Witch Trials.
You like the Salem Witch Trials?
Yeah, I do. My characters I name in like online games is Abigail Williams, the main one.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, I don't think so, because a lot of the times I look into a lot of the games that I buy before I get them, for the most part.
Yeah.
And honestly, even if it's something I don't like, I usually try and look at what I do like and try and figure out what's good about it.
Yeah.
So
That makes sense.
yeah. So anyway, yeah, that's all we got for this week. And then stay tuned. Thanks everybody for being here for this week. And then next week we'll check you out. Next week, I don't know what we're gonna talk about, but we're gonna talk about some awesome
We'll figure it
stuff.
out.
We'll figure it out. All right, thanks everybody, and we'll see you next time.
Take care.
All right, see everybody.